The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. We are absolutely loaded today. Our Monday guest, Spencer Riley, the former Vol, will join us. You know we absolutely love that. As Tennessee thumps NC State, we'll look back. Thanks to all of those that joined us for the Last Look post-game show brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. We've got a lot to get to. Not only Spencer Riley, Tennessee, in my opinion, slighted by an antiquated polling system. Also, the report card coming up as well. We'll have this day in Tennessee sports history and how the Vols have done something defensively they haven't done since 1985. And I'll tell you what it is. When you email your contact at the University of Tennessee and they say, wow, that's a good one, then you thought of something pretty good. But I want to be clear, it was one of our listeners who reached out to us, as we want you to do, on Hooker's Corner. So go ahead and join on Hooker's Corner. We can put that link in the message box, and I'll tell you how to join it just a little bit later. SEC Power Rankings, why Nico is a top 3 SEC quarterback despite being ranked much lower. Stat of the day coming up, and also the Last Look brought to you by our friends at Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. We are brought to you and represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Other lawyers say they'll go to trial. They won't. They'll settle and settle for less. Not Banks & Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. So here we go, Caleb Calhoun. It's a monstrous show. Please hit that like and subscribe button as Tennessee is 2-0. And how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing today, Dave?
I'm doing great. My predictions have been on the money. I'm going to tell you that 54-17. Someone reached out to me that was like a medical expert, and he has like 1 billion YouTube views. But it's not about sports, but he's a big Tennessee fan. And he says, I'm tracking all the media and you've been the closest. It's usually the thing I do the worst, Caleb, is pick games. Okay. I just don't do it well. And I usually don't do it. But I'll ride the hot streak for as long as I can.
You know, I don't really need this right now because I am riding a very unhot streak. I am managing to go. I am 0 for 10 now on my key bets of the week.
Somebody told me that. Now, these are your best bets of the weekend. How does that happen, Caleb?
You know how hard it is to lose on 10 straight of anything in gambling? It's a 50-50 proposition.
It's as hard to go 10-0, to go 0-10. So should people continue to follow your bets? Are you going to pull this out?
I'm going to pull this out. Don't worry. Things are going to change. It's a rough start. The first couple of weeks of the season are always the roughest because you don't really know how to gauge teams. And guys, it's even worse now with the era of the transfer portal and things like that. What's really frustrating to me is that on the thing I wanted to be wrong on, I was right on, which is that Will Levis is a horrible quarterback and the Titans never should have drafted him. And once again, I'm proven right and my Titans are proven wrong on quarterbacks they draft. They always are going to be bad.
Well, I will tell you this. I don't want to talk about the Titans a lot, but I will give you this. He is horrible. Absolutely horrible. And I mean, I don't watch the Titans because they've always been boring since the early 2000s, but he is absolutely horrible. Bad footwork, bad everything. But we've got things to talk about right now, and it is today's tough question. Today's tough question brought to you by our friends at work trucks. They're tough. WorkTrucksLLC.com.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Today's tough question. Who are the standouts, the torchbearers, as we call them? For those that don't know, there's a statue with a guy holding a torch, and it's the Torchbearer Award that individual students win, not just an athletic award, but we've turned it into an athletic award. So today's tough question is tough. Caleb, who are our torchbearers after the Vols destroy NC State over the weekend?
Oh, the torchbearers are starting at number 5. And you could, and I want to say this up front. I'm giving torchbearers to playmakers who racked up the stats, but I could have given it to everybody on the defensive front 7. And it was kind of really hard to separate them out, if I'm being honest. But I am going to start with Will Brooks. He had the game-changing play, the turning point, which I mentioned on Saturday with the pick 6, a walk-on safety to come in and be able to do that. I mean, the play was set up for him by Joshua Josephs getting the pressure, and in reality, it was set up for him by the designed call from Tim Banks. Tim Banks schemed that pick 6, but Will Brooks still is the one who made the key play on it. So because of that, because he almost came away with another interception and was part of really shutting down NC State's passing attack. They were talking about the defensive front 7, but they were horrible throwing the ball. I got to give Will Brooks a torchbearer.
I love that. And you were down on him. I think that this is the last year under a Josh Heupel team at Tennessee. You're going to see a feel-good story like a former walk-on be able to get into the lineup. And I'm not sure, no offense to Will Brooks and the play he made on Saturday, I'm not sure he stays in the starting lineup all year with the deep, talented, but inexperienced secondary that they have. But good for him. I think we both wondered if Tennessee was in trouble in the secondary because he was out there. And hey, what he did on Saturday, kudos. And give him credit too. I didn't see him get burned at any point. He almost had a second interception. So we're not privy to the grades per se and what Will Brooks did, but I thought he played a good overall game. It wasn't just the interception return. So I'm with you on that one. Who's next?
Hey now.
All right, next, number 4. And again, I think Arian Carter had the breakout game, even over Keenan Peele and Jeremiah Thielander. Again, I'm nitpicking. If you want to say no, it should be Keenan Peele. I can't even fight you on it, but I just personally felt like Arian Carter leaped off the screen a little bit more on Saturday.
I would disagree. I think Peele, his aggressiveness downhill is exactly what Tennessee needs to beat the University of Georgia, which is the final hurdle for Josh Heupel. I think his aggressiveness downhill, he did play sideline to sideline better than I thought he could. I know he got called for the personal foul, but I'd rather say whoa than sick him. And he's not going to do that again, I don't believe. I think he's 26 years old. He's mature enough not to do that. But he almost, I don't mean this to sound mean. He almost killed a man. Did you see the one hit where the guy's going down and he just absolutely form tackle, shoulder right into the chest, and the guy got absolutely thumped. And I thought that sent a message that Tennessee's defense is very, very physical. So that wasn't even a stat, but it was an incredible hit. The tackle had already been made, but as he was going down, he may have gotten a half tackle for that. Who's next, Caleb?
All right, we're going to the outside rushers now. And James Pierce had 2 quarterback hurries. Joshua Josephs forced the hurry that resulted in the pick 6. Tyree West was very solid. But Dave, I'm going Dominic Bailey, who had a strip sack and actually had 3 tackles in the game, was very effective. I didn't see this from Dominic Bailey at all. I thought Tyree West was going to steal that spot, but it sounds like Rodney Garner is running. See, the reason this is hard, Dave, is Rodney Garner runs such a deep rotation. Nobody's really going to stand out with big plays, but Dominic Bailey was, to me, the best of the ends in this game.
You mentioned 5 guys that I can't disagree with, so I'll give that a
Hey now. Hey now.
Yeah.
Hey now.
I mean, they were that good. They were that good. And if at some point the torchbearers need to be the entire group of ends or the entire group of tackles, you can do that. Take 1 second, hit the like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. It means a lot. Who else are the torchbearers? And we'll get to the report card here in just a moment, brought to you by Work Trucks.
So my number 2 torchbearer, my number 1 defender in the game, and maybe I'm sympathetic because he's a Memphis kid, but he's also the leader of this unit. I want to send a shout out to Bryson Eason. I want to send a shout out to Jackson Moy, and I want to send a shout out to Omar Norman Lott. They all made plays. Amari Thomas was the heart of that defensive line in the trenches. So he's the leader of that group. He had a tackle for a loss, had 1.5 tackles for a loss, and a pass deflection, actually. He is the guy that brings the rest of them on. He is the Rodney Garner on the field. And because of that, I got to give the way they played to the leadership to a certain degree of Amari Thomas. And it's almost like a leadership award, but I feel like he's the one who basically carried the torch for all of the defensive line playing so well.
I got no problem with that. We'll roll that. I think Amari Thomas is the leader of that group. And after the game in his press conference, it was pretty obvious when he said, you got to keep getting better, keep getting better. He's the leader. That's why he went to SEC Media Days twice. So name him by default, but the whole group was really, really good.
Hey now.
All right. Who's next? Who's our next torchbearer?
And number 1 on the torchbearer list, and guys, this is really hard for me to do, okay? But I had to put an offensive guy on there, and came down to Nico or Dylan Sampson, and I actually gave it to Dylan Sampson.
Hey now.
And it was really hard for me to do it, but because I might end up swallowing my pride on Dylan Sampson. But yes, Dylan Sampson was incredible in this game.
Yep.
I mean, 132 rushing yards, 39 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Dude was he was elite.
Yep. It was just incredible. I was impressed by him. His size is always going to be something that he's asked about, but I believe that you'll see more and more of him in the passing game. And his pass blocking to me is perfectly fine now. That's no longer an issue. And I believe that, he'll be kind of, and our own Stacy Oliver wrote about this Saturday morning. He'll be kind of a Marshall Faulk type. I'm not saying he's as good, but I think he's going to get more experienced in the passing game as we move forward. And also, and we're going to get to this in the report card, I'm sure, but Josh Heupel has thrown out about 15 different looks in the first 2 games as far as pre-snap formations. I mean, he is way more multiple. Tennessee's tight ends have given him a lot of flexibility. I'm sure we'll get to that in coaching, but I don't think that you have truly seen what this offense will look like. And I don't think we know, because so far everything they've run out there has gone at a pretty high level. I believe that you'll actually see this offense change from week to week, and instead of being what it was in 2022, and that was pretty static. We knew what we were going to get. It was going to be 3 wide receivers and a tailback. We knew that, and a tight end. So before we get to the report card, I got to remind you that we're brought to you in part by our good friends at Work Trucks, all about trucks that are actually available. If you can pull up that website, Caleb, it's phenomenal. Trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is all about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips, and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an iPod, work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you, contractors, to get back on the road. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, Work Trucks. They have the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks, Clinton Highway in Knoxville and in downtown Birmingham for the entire inventory. Go to worktrucksllc.com with an X, worktrucksllc.com. Don't burn time, worktrucksllc.com. They'll fit your needs to a T. Proud supporter of the Tennessee Vols. Caleb, report card time. Is that what's up next, my friend? As Caleb bounced off the screen, but now he's back. So we've got Caleb back. Do we share Work Trucks with everybody, their website? Have we done that?
Yes. Oh, I think I think Dave. I think we're both trying to hit things at the same time. Just give me a
I'm
second.
not hitting anything. I'm not going to touch a thing. All right. So
All right, here we are.
You saw Work Trucks right there. If you want to scroll up, worktrucksllc.com. Caleb, let's get to the report card because we know that Work Trucks always gets an A+ for contractors, but Tennessee not A+ across the board. Never are, because Caleb is an absolute harsh judge. So let's see what he's got going. Hit like and subscribe now. Someone asked about the Oklahoma game. When is the kickoff? I don't know that we know yet. I'm not sure how the new TV deal works. You used to have to wait for CBS when they'd get that when you would get that exemption. Nevertheless, let's get to the report card. Caleb, what do you got? I will set you up, and if I agree with you, then here comes a
Hey now.
if I think you're a little low, it'll be a
that's crazy.
All right, let's start. Do you want to start or end with Nico? Let's go
We'll start with Nico. We'll start with the quarterback play.
Okay, quarterback play. You give a B.
Yes.
Okay. First question I have is how much do you put the second interception on him?
None. 0%.
Okay. I would disagree there, and it's why I might even go B-. I think if you're really, really, really elite, you tuck the ball and take the sack, and that's what Peyton Manning would have done. So I actually, surprisingly enough,
that's crazy,
because of the errant throw, which ended in an interception, and another throw outside, would be a little bit lower, like a B-. That speaks to Tennessee's depth and overall prowess because they still won easily with a human quarterback and not just a future phenom. Caleb, running backs?
Yeah, I mean,
or go ahead with that.
I mean, yeah, in the other parts, I mean, he missed an out route to score White, threw another interception, overthrew Brew McCoy for a touchdown on the first drive, and the big pass he did have to score White, honestly, would have been a touchdown if he hit him more in stride. He threw it a little too far, and score White had to reach out for him. So, yeah, I'm
still
B-.
B- against a ranked opponent in your third start is unbelievable. So nobody's knocking Nico for sure. All right, running backs, A+. I got you there.
Yeah, it's an A+. I mean, guys, what can we say that hasn't already been said about Dylan Sampson's play in this game? That was just incredible what he did. So, yeah, I think it's an easy A+. Honestly, I don't even think it's a debate.
Yep, I agree. And next up, let's go to as I bounce around my screen. You got wide receivers with an A.
Hey now.
I agree with that. Why not an A+?
So part of an A+ is you have to perform spectacularly without any mistakes, and it's not the wide receiver's fault. They did nothing wrong, but they didn't really have chances to perform spectacularly. Is that fair to say? In this one, just the flow of the game.
That's fair. I will go with that.
Yeah, so because of that, it's an A. They didn't do anything wrong. I had no complaints about how the wide receivers played in this game whatsoever.
Nope. I agree. All right. Who's up next, Caleb?
Tight ends, and I'm going A+. Miles Kitselman and Holden Stays had touchdown catches. Kitselman should have had a second, but yeah, no, it's an A+ for tight ends.
Okay. If you want to take part in our poll question, it's on the YouTube page. Tennessee is ranked number 7 in the AP poll. I don't really pay attention to the coaches poll because I don't know who's doing it. But is that too high, too low, or just right? Vote on there right now. Caleb, next position up is?
Oh, next position up is offensive line, and I'm sorry, but once again, I have to give this unit a B. The John Campbell penalty, the John Campbell missed block that resulted in Nico Iamaleava's interception, and then the missed call on the downfield blocker that waved off a touch wasn't a good call, but it's still he shouldn't have put himself in position to get that call. So I'm still, it's still because of those things you got to go B with offensive line.
that's crazy.
I would go A-, but we're not that far off. Defensive line A+. I mean, I think
Hey now.
we can agree on that, right?
This should be like extra credit for the defensive line. It should be like an A++. Like you should have they should have like instead of a score of 100, they should have a 125. I mean, it was insane how great they played.
Nope. Agreed. Up next, Tennessee's linebackers, who we talked about previously, they get an A.
They do. They get an A. And the only reason it's not an A+ is Keenan Bealey's personal foul penalty. Now, you can say you like it, but still technically a negative play. I can't go A+ when a linebacker committed a personal foul penalty. So, but otherwise would have been an A+.
I can completely roll with that. I mean, you should never have that happen, but it's a sign that he's an ultra aggressive player, and I like it. Now, if it crops up again, if that sort of play cropped up in the fourth quarter in a close game against Georgia, it could be disastrous. So I'm not endorsing that play, but I am telling you I can live with it if I'm head coach Josh Heupel. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fair.
Okay.
I totally understand that.
And I'm probably going to make him an example. I'm going to pull him aside before you go through the tape, and I'm probably going to make him an example because he's an older guy and he can take it. All right, secondary, A-.
Yep, secondary gets an A-. I honestly, you could talk me into an A or an A+. But the pulling of Boo Carter for over pursuing early when NC State was moving up the ball on that first drive, I think it's so nitpicky, I know, but it's like, I can't give everybody straight A+. So I think that's enough to say it was an A-. They were out of position a couple of times. It was mostly hard to judge them. I mean, honestly, you and I could have played secondary back there on Saturday, given what the front seven was doing.
Okay, so place kicking, A-.
Yep, and it was only an A- because Josh Heupel forced Max Gilbert out to kick a 53-yarder when the game was already in hand, and he shouldn't have been forced to kick that field goal. Otherwise, it would have been an A+. But a missed field goal, you can't get it an A+ when you miss a field goal.
Fair. Punting, return game, AA.
Yep, Jackson Ross is back, had one punt, 43 yards, went inside the 20, and Squirrel White didn't run any punts back, but he had 3 great returns. So, I mean, look, I can't say anything negative about it.
You didn't do coaching, which you usually don't, but that's the one that I'm going to ask you to give for a couple of reasons. One, because you deserve to get in a lot of trouble like I did back in the day when I did the report card on deadline Saturday night and coaching was a category. Imagine how that went Monday after a game. If you gave coaching a grade, what would it be?
Oh, if I gave coaching a grade, it's an A+. I mean,
okay.
There was nothing wrong with the coaching in that game. And honestly, even from the play calling perspective, I mean, that shovel pass on 3rd and 15 on the first touchdown drive for Tennessee, that's one of the best calls I've ever seen. I mean, it was so perfectly timed. Nobody saw it coming, by the way. And I mean, that was just brilliantly done. And Heupel schemed 2 more touchdown passes. So, coaching is an A+.
Yep. Okay. I've only got like 30-something likes and hundreds of people in the chat currently. So please hit that like button. Greatly appreciate it. It helps us spread the word. And I want to remind you that the show is represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? Banks & Jones, T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. All right, it's time for the stat of the day. Love the stat of the day. And I think Caleb is going to admit that I came up with a better stat of the day. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll be beholden to his stat of the day. But Caleb, let me get your first stat of the day. And then we'll tell everybody, if you hit that like button, we'll tell you the last time that Tennessee did not give up a defensive touchdown in 3 consecutive games, kids, because you go way, way back. Caleb, your stat of the day is? And you're muted. There we go. We got Caleb back.
I would like to apologize. I was trying to flip my connections around and my mic went muted. But okay, so this is Tennessee's third largest win over a ranked team in history. You want to know the other two?
I do.
1980, they won at Auburn 42 to nothing. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
That Auburn team turned out to be terrible, but a quality, legitimate ranked win. And Tennessee's first matchup with a Steve Spurrier-led Florida, 1990, when they absolutely obliterated the Gators 45-3. That's when Dale Carter decided the score was 7-3 at halftime, and then a ball was kicked off and it was going out of bounds, and Dale Carter made the boneheaded decision to field the kickoff and then ran it back for a touchdown.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now let's get to my stat of the day and see what people think about that. And it's brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go to Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. There's a lot of stuff out there, these convenience stores and stuff. This is safe. I mean, it's the premier hemp dispensary online, guys. Use the promo code HOOKED and get 10% off. HOOKED and get 10% off. So do you have my stat of the day? Because I'm pretty proud of it.
Yes. But I would love for you to tell it because you deserve it. Your stat's better. I'm conceding that your stat's better. I didn't know this stat.
All right. Well, I'll do it. I was going to let you throw that out, but
okay.
I will go ahead.
I can throw it out then. You want me to do it?
Okay.
Dave just wants to Dave wants to bask in me saying a stat that he came up with, and he wants to enjoy it.
Yes.
Okay, so the stat of the day is that Tennessee, this is the first time since 1985, very legendary season in Tennessee, that the Vols went 3 straight games without giving up a defensive touchdown. They gave up only 2 field goals to Georgia Tech. They gave up 0 points to Rutgers. And then they gave up 7 to Memphis, but that was a blocked punt return for a touchdown. I'm going to tell you this. This run is more impressive. I mean, those were 2 games against Rutgers and Memphis. Tennessee has done it against 2 of 3 ranked teams.
It's the most impressive 3-game run in the modern era of Tennessee football defense.
By far. And by the way, Heupel, to his credit, said on Saturday, he was asked about it, and I actually believe him, David. You can tell me if I'm crazy, but he said that defense is the standard is defense, elite defense at Tennessee. And he brought up Al Wilson, Reggie White, and Eric Berry, and he said, even though this is an offensive, even though Heupel's an offensive coach, I think he's dead serious that he expects the defense to be elite.
Okay, agreed. All right, Tennessee's AP ranking is too low, too high, just right. That's our poll question we want you to vote on online. Just right, 78% of the voters say that it is just right. Too low, 14% of the voters say that it's too low. And 8% say too high. Okay, let me tell you why the Lions' share of our audience is wrong, because there are 5 teams that deserve to be in the top 5, and Tennessee is one of them. And I'm going to absolutely convince you of that coming up. Also, later in the program, we look forward to our Bank on It segment. Is Nico Iamaleava a top 3 SEC quarterback? I'm going to tell you why he is, even though the statistics don't back that up as much. And I'll tell you, I think right now, despite having a somewhat off game by his standards, I think he's top 3 in the nation. But I've got stats to back all of this up, SEC power rankings as well. You give us 2 minutes and we'll give you former Vol Spencer Riley. We love visiting with him, as he'll give us some perspective on the Tennessee win. This is a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Actually, just give me a minute. Spencer's there, and we'll be right back.
Here looks a little fuzzy to you? You may want to consider LASIK vision correction from the Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Now with 2 Sevierville locations to serve you, East Tennessee's best eye care is more convenient than ever.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, BanksJones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Let's get right into it. Spencer Riley, nice to join us now, the former Vols center. And there he is. Spencer, how are you, sir?
Oh, man, great. It's a beautiful day outside. Feels like it's a little football weather outside, so it's nice.
Yeah, high schools, and Spencer is the head coach at Jeff County. They start so early that I'm not sure that a lot of 28 and 30-year-olds could make it through. Sometimes it's darn hot, which is probably part of the reason you've lost a lot of weight.
Well, I'm just trying to be less fat, man. That's all I'm trying to be.
It's me too. Before we get to the Vols, how'd the weekend go for you in Jeff County?
Not very well. We lost a close one. Physical football game versus Science Hill, lost 20-14, and we got to be better. Got to have more production out of our wide receiver core and quarterback play, and we got to continue to be physical on both sides of the ball. Defense played really well, kept us in it, and kept a really good Science Hill team to under 200 yards total offense. So thought it was a pretty good night.
Well, we're rooting for you, buddy. And if you can kind of give us an update on Nick Moore, Tennessee commitment, your thoughts on how he's playing to this point in the season.
Nick Nick's playing fine. He's, but there to me, and everybody else that you watch and you're saying, hey, you got to play, you got to be the best guy on the field all the time, right? And still trying to figure out how to do that. Day in and day out, snap in, snap out. But when he decides he's going to take it over, and it's fun to watch, and he's more consistent this year than he was a year ago, and he continues to improve in that aspect of it. And he is definitely fun to watch. He likes to finish guys. He plays hard. He plays fast. We're just having some tough luck here in the early part of our year of been able to throw the ball down the field and just being connecting on some of those plays.
Spencer, so diving into the game, I always love with you, we have a former offensive lineman talking about a Tennessee program that is supposed to be the high-flying, score a lot of points, entertainment type of program under Josh Heupel. But they won a game on Saturday the way y'all's teams would win back in the 90s, it felt like. Just out manhandling their opponents on the line of scrimmage.
Sure.
Did you see that coming from this team?
Well, Josh Heupel wants to run the football, guys. Let's just call it how it is. Everybody has this perception he wants to throw it all over the barnyard, and he don't care to do that, but he would prefer to run the football. If you want to win a national championship and win an SEC title, you got to be able to run the football, and you got to be able to stop the run. It's a tried and true method of success. So I really thought that they did a great job up front. I thought I think that the left guard spot's kind of solidified to me a little bit more after watching it. I thought it was a very physical football game on their part, on Tennessee's part. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a fun ball game to watch. From my standpoint from it, you know what I mean? I'd like to see us they play a little gimmicky type defense and a 3-3 stack, and then bring a lot of pressure, and you know what I mean, something that you don't see all the time. Which can give you some confusions on who you got, where you got to slide to, who's coming, who's got this guy, and they bring multiple backers from different areas, and it can kind of give you some problems. And I thought there was a little bit of communication issues on that point of it. But overall, I thought it was a good, solid football game for them offensively. Rodney Garner's got those dogs up front hunting.
And Spencer, I know you faced it in practice. I'm sure you faced it against other teams you played. But when a team can bring in defensive tackles in waves, and every coach starts the thing, we'd like 12 defensive linemen that could play. Well, that's not always the case, and rarely is. But it does feel like Tennessee has 6 defensive tackles that can play. How much more challenging is that from an offensive line standpoint?
I mean, especially in long drives, it gets really, really challenging for you because there's a fresh body coming in. You're kind of a little tired from the long drive, and we don't have a ton of long drives. Let's be honest. We score from distance, and we don't. But we can go down and have a 15-play drive, but we also can score from distance, and it's definitely a challenge for the offensive line because you're gonna get a fresh body, different type of player than who you were playing against the previous snaps, and you just got to know who your personnel is when they come in the ball game.
Spencer, on the other side, we did our report card right before you came on, and I was grading the secondary, and I thought the secondary played well, but I got to ask, could you really even judge the secondary? Because how easy is it to play in the secondary when your defensive line plays that well in a game the way Tennessee plays?
I will say this: the best coverage is a great pass rush. Let's just call it how it is. You don't got to cover a long time if they're getting back there at the quarterback, getting quarterback off his spot. You know what I mean? It makes a young secondary better, for sure. And I say young, there's still questions in that secondary for sure for me. As I was getting ready to come on here, that's probably still my biggest concern on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep. I think that's fair, and I wonder at what point that they'll be tested, because you're going to be 3 games deep into the Kent State, and really I don't know that they've been tested. Have you ever been in a situation in which a part of your team 2 or 3 games into the season you still have some question marks about?
Not as coaching, but from a playing standpoint, you go into ball games and you should win, and you're young and you're trying to figure out, all right, so what's going to happen when the heavy bullets and the artillery shells start flying instead of the little pea shooters, when the haymakers start rolling in. So not really, but as a player, you definitely, it's still in the back of your mind, and everybody knows, hey, we got to go out and perform when it counts versus the big dogs.
Yeah, it's what do you read stock into the Spencer from the sense of Tennessee dominating the line of scrimmage? And I think every Tennessee fan felt a nice little bit of nostalgia seeing that. Could that be indicative of Tennessee this year? Or do you say, well, they were a top 25 team, but at the end of the day, they're NC State. They're not the type of lines we're going to see in the SEC.
Well, they are the ACC, so it gives you enough. You know what I mean? I don't. You're not playing. And ACC's got some good football teams, but NC State, they're probably 3 or 4 in their conference, maybe. You know what I mean? At best. You know what I mean? So I don't know they're supposed to have the second most starts in college football in the offensive line play. Did I hear that right?
Yeah. 4 or 5 graduate transfers.
That ain't good. That ain't good for them.
No, and that's wow. That I hadn't even thought about that. They mentioned it on the telecast. To me, that's just purely a difference in talent level. Is it that simple, Spencer?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, your University of Tennessee, that's NC State.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you're not
North
outsmarting
Carolina's
us.
supposed to be a better football team than NC State, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they're not even their best in their area in North Carolina. So, I mean, I take it as you want. I just call it how I see it. You know what I mean? They're a quality ball club. They'll be a top 20. You know, they'll continue to win football games throughout the year in the ACC, and you know what I mean. If may have a chance to slide in there, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be playing in the SEC. It's not like playing in the SEC schedule, guys. And I haven't looked at the polls, but how many teams in the SEC are ranked in the top 25?
I think there's like 6 now, 6 or 7.
Yeah. Yeah. And
how many do we play?
Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama,
Missouri.
No, Tennessee doesn't play Missouri this year.
Missouri, excuse me.
Arkansas.
Well, Arkansas, but I don't think they're in the top 25.
I didn't know. So I mean, come on now, guys. Let's call it how it is. They don't, and the ACC has how many? Miami.
Miami.
I'm sorry, they are in it. Sorry.
Yeah, Miami, but Florida State's dropped out.
Clemson's still in it.
Clemson.
2.
Yeah. So, I don't think this is a good time to buy stock in the ACC.
No.
I want to let me ask you.
Don't drink the water. You know what I mean? What I would say in that part of it. You know, when you asked about the physicality and the dominance of the offensive line play and defensive line play, we did what we were supposed to do, right? Let's see if we can do that versus the Oklahomas and the Georgias and you know the Alabamas. See if we can do that versus those guys. Or, you know what I mean? And you don't have to be dominant. I mean, you just got to be able to perform and execute at a high level and be good. You know what I mean? Because if you're good, they're good. It's going to be a hell of a football game.
That's well put. I want to ask you about schematically. We saw a lot of double tight ends, and we've seen almost 2 different looking offenses at times, including the key players. Dante Thornton was the go-to guy in game 1, and it was the tight ends oftentimes. And Squirrel White looked to be a big part of the game plan, even though there were some misconnections. I remind you that Spencer's appearance, coincidentally brought to you by Don Self, State Farm. Customer service still matters. For 40 years, they built their business on taking care of their customers. The greater Chattanooga area, call 423-396-2126 or go to donself.net. I know you're a big Don Self guy there, Spencer.
Talked to him last week.
Nice.
I take care of business, so took care of me. Matter of freaking 30 minutes. Done, handled. He texted me back and said, "Hey, it's done and handled." I said, "Thanks, appreciate it." So nice. I mean, that's how you do business with Don Self.
Nice. How difficult is it to have a a different approach on offense from one game to another, to lean more on 2 tight ends than you did in week 1? Can you just talk about that coaching challenge?
Sure. No, I don't think so. Not at all. I mean, for us, for an offense coach, no, you always got 2 tights in. You always have 2 tight ends in your package. You always have, if you've got 3, you have 3 tight ends, you know, but everybody always has those personnel groupings, right? You know, you heard me talk about NC State plays 3-3 stack. Well, 3-3 stack hates 2 tight ends.
Gotcha.
Gets them out of the one what they want to do. It makes you balanced. You know what I mean? You added a gap for run scheme, right? So now they got to add an extra person to the line of scrimmage, get a couple of guys closer to the box. That's why they started playing more man coverage on the outside. You know what I mean? So it's a twofold sword, right? You know, if you're going to get somebody who plays a bunch of spread, 4 receivers and trips to one side, 2x2 or trips to one side, you know what I mean? It's easy to be able to manipulate your defense in a 3-3 stack to be able to create pressure and do that. You know, but when you decide you're going to get in there and you're going to make it an ugly contest of hey, the physicality of we're going to be 2 tights and we're just going to pound you, it's kind of hard.
Makes sense. Tennessee will have Kent State, and then they'll play Oklahoma. Let me ask you a question from kind of the opposite perspective. they can show what they want against Kent State. Now we've seen that they can run two tights at a high level. We've seen in week 1 that their offense can run at a high level without two tight ends. With Kent State, I don't know what they're going to do. But as if you're Oklahoma, how much more difficult is it in that game upcoming to prepare for a team that has shown so many things offensively?
I think we line up and run the wishbone at them.
Oh, man.
Kent State's so bad. I mean, so
Yes,
they're the. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're not last in the.
Well, no,
are they not ranked last?
Spencer, it's funny you say this because I actually said at the start of the year, everybody thinks the FCS foe is your easiest school. I said, guys, Kent State's easier than Chattanooga. They're worse than Chattanooga is.
Oh, yeah.
They are a horrible.
They've won one ball game in 2 years, right?
I think that's it. Yeah.
And I hate talking bad about people because of the head coach, right? I don't like doing that because, I don't want the shoe to be on my foot either, you know what I mean? So, but, you know what I mean? They're not very good.
Well, their coach did say at one point that he doesn't like to he said he doesn't like to analyze plays at one point last year. So, you know.
Kind
of. Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna give him bubbles. Let's see what happens.
All right, Spence, you got Dobbins Bennett on the road this weekend. Best of luck. And we always appreciate your time. The insight means a lot. I appreciate you, buddy.
All right, I got a question for you too.
Wait on me.
How many points are we gonna score this weekend? Do we cover? And how many points do we score?
Have you seen the spread yet, Caleb?
It's 40-something. It
was
40-something last time I looked.
I think Josh Heupel
47.5 point favorite with the over under 62.5.
I think Josh Heupel likes points. I think he likes numbers. And I think he would like for Nico to get some Heisman consideration. All this is not traditional coaching, Spencer, not how you and I might
100%. I agree with what you're saying. I have an opinion, so I'll just tell you. I want to hear what y'all going to say first.
Okay. So, yes, I think you'll make sure and cover and make Nico look good. You?
What's the score? What's the points we score?
I'm going to say 63.
Come on, Caleb. Let's go.
I'm gonna go. I think they finally crossed the 70-point threshold. I'm gonna go 75.
That's what I said. You're on point here, Caleb.
I'm team. I think they hit. I think they get into the 70s. Spencer's right, guys.
I feel sorry for Kent State. Let's just be honest. I hate it. You know what I mean? We're giving them a good paycheck, run their athletic department for a year or two. You know what I mean? So bless them.
Yeah.
Great trip. Enjoy it. Take your money and go back.
They are the worst team. They are the worst team in FBS.
Spencer almost said one of my favorite Southern sayings, "Bless your heart," which basically
bless their heart.
I mean, so judgmental when they say it.
Which is kind of like saying you're not very good, but
bless your heart.
Yeah, bless your heart.
I'm sorry, you're terrible.
I'm only probably going to watch the first half. Just going to let y'all know. So next week you're going to have to carry me a little bit more.
I understand. Thank you, Spencer. I appreciate you. Have a fantastic week. Go beat Dobbins Bennett.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all have a blessed day.
See you, brother. That's fantastic. Spencer Riley joining us now. Yeah, that's kind of like no offense, Caleb. Whenever anybody starts with bless your heart, no offense.
With all due respect.
Well, the other one I love is having said that.
With that,
does that mean the last thing you said is inconsequential?
That is true. What was it? They said Talladega Nights, with all due respect, I had no idea you had experimental cert. Never mind.
and then I love it when people use irregardless, which isn't a word.
I hate that. That's a journalist in you, Dave. I hate irregardless. Oh, Stewie from Family Guy had a moment where he became president and he basically said the death penalty for anybody who says irregardless or a whole nother. A whole nother is not a thing.
Now, okay, I'm not opposed to that. I'm not as opposed to somebody maybe an open slapping rule if you say irregardless. All right, so bank on it. Nico Iamaleava is a top 3 SEC quarterback despite being ranked lower. Bank on it will be brought to you by Commercial Bank, and we'll get to that in exactly 2 minutes. So hang tight, and I'm going to explain to you why Nico will absolutely be towards the top 3 in the nation when it comes to quarterback ranking, and why he is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the SEC, if not the entire nation, already as a redshirt sophomore and redshirt freshman. And I have done my homework. Stay tuned. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
When the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 24 Ford Maverick Hybrid, $25,515. 23 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,995. 24 Ford F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $59,757. Local you trust, performance you can afford. Varner Ford, built for the game.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
We're loaded up. Please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. And I'm going to get to a lot of your comments in the message board. So your thoughts. I may have asked the dumbest poll question ever just a little bit earlier in the program when I say that Tennessee's greatest strength is blank: defensive front, skill positions, offensive line. Defensive front got 91% of the vote. Skill position, 6% of the vote. Offensive line, 1% of the vote. This next poll question could create a little bit more intrigue. Nico Iamaleava will be better than Hendon Hooker in 2022 by the end of the season. Yes, no doubt. Nope, not yet. In other words, not by the end of this season. Caleb Calhoun, we're going to get into some of the numbers. We've now had 2 games. Most of these teams that we're going to talk about and quarterbacks have played a quality opponent. Some have not. So I've got Nico above them, even though his quarterback ranking isn't as high. But I ask you that question. Will Nico's play be as high of a level as Hendon Hooker by the end of the year. You might even say it is already. And
You know,
as a matter of fact, Mr. Gumps said so. Go ahead.
I'm rerouting a little bit on this. I would have said he already is better, but after last week, there are still some mistakes that he made that I don't think Hendon Hooker would have made given his experience. So I still think by the end of the year he'll be better. Yeah,
I think he'll be better by the end of September when he beats Oklahoma on the road, and then that will be a major notch in his belt. And I want to get into why. And I remind you that portions of the program are brought to you by Medicare Misty, a registered, licensed in over 40 states. Medicare Misty is there for you. Here is why Nico will be better than Hendon Hooker at the end of the year. By the way, Medicare Misty, no charge for her services.
19 years this year. Well, I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Okay. Let me tell you why I think Nico will be at the Hooker level or better. So he threw 2 interceptions over the weekend. That's affected his rating, which is 185.5, which is very, very good. Don't get me wrong. That is fantastic. 185.5, but it's going to settle out for the remainder of the season. Now, Hendon Hooker was rated as the second best quarterback in the nation and tops in the SEC with a 177.7 rating. Again, you have to factor in Nico played Chattanooga in the first game and played an overmatched team that Josh Heupel did a great job of scheming up with the double tight end look. So again, it's higher. It's going to settle when you would think when they start to play the Georgias and the Alabamas of the world. But I believe firmly that he'll end up with a higher ranking at the end of the day because of the better overall talent. Now, let's talk SEC for a second. You have Georgia's Carson Beck and Ole Miss's Jackson Dart. They are the two, in my opinion, that just in terms of ratings will be the toughest to beat in Dart and Beck. Beck will be the efficient one. He won't be asked to throw as much. His numbers and his rating will be fantastic. Ole Miss's Jackson Dart, you know as well as I do that Lane Kiffin wants to run up as many points as possible. So his might be somewhat overinflated, but it'll still be very, very good. And I'm not knocking any of these guys. I'm just telling you that Nico already belongs in the conversation of top quarterback in the SEC. That's going to prove to be the case. So right now, here is what you have. The ratings, you have Jackson Dart, who is number one. His rating's 247 because they played nobody. DJ Lagway at Florida is 225.1. Jalen Milroe at Alabama, I don't believe continues his success. They've played no one. He'll come down to earth. Blake Shapen at Mississippi State. I know you like State a lot, but he's going to have tougher days ahead. I think you would agree with that, Caleb.
Well, and I like State because they run an offense. They're going to run an offense similar to Heupel's, but Heupel's got way more talent to run the same offense. So obviously, Tennessee's is going to be better.
Right, which leads to a better quarterback rating. Then you have Carson Beck, Georgia, who hasn't thrown an interception yet. And then you have Nico at number 6. So, guys, right now, Nico is playing at a 185.4.5 rate. Again, these numbers are going to come down a little bit. Carson Beck's at 185.8. He's already playing as good as the best quarterback, at least that's what we thought, headed into the season. So give me one reason why Nico's rating won't eventually pass Shapen, Milroe, and Lagway. do you agree or disagree that at the end of the season, he will be at the very least one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the SEC?
Oh, easily. It's going to be Nico, Jackson Dart, and Carson Beck. And Carson Beck may have a higher rating because of efficiency. Jackson Dart may have a higher rating because, guys, if you guys are watching Ole Miss right now, Lane Kiffin is just having a blast, like having Jackson Dart light it up for fun. And so Lane Kiffin will video game style try to make sure Jackson Dart has the best stats, to be honest. But yeah, no, absolutely. It's I would venture to say that Nico, it would be shocking if he wasn't number 1 by the end of the year, if I'm being honest with you, Dave.
I wasn't going to go that far, but I'll roll with you on that. Hendon Hooker had a 175 rating throughout the entire season. That was 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I don't think that Nico's going to throw a lot of errant balls. I don't know why he came out there and threw a couple of errant balls. Again, we're nitpicking about Nico, but he did throw a couple of errant balls. I don't know if he was fired up because this was a totally different look that they were giving NC State and 2 tight ends, Caleb, but he was off target. I mean, the one ball across the middle just soared on him. I don't think that's going to be commonplace or repeat itself moving forward. It was just a bad ball. I mean, the read was good if the ball's on target. And also factor this in. I know it was an interception, but I'd rather miss a guy leading him out, as Nico did in this offense, as opposed to it being on his back hip and he has to stop like Tennessee's quarterback play last year, Caleb. So your thoughts on where Nico might end up, his strengths, weaknesses compared to Hendon Hooker?
Well, I agree, and I want to throw this out here too. And this may be a little controversial to say, but maybe not controversial, but they're taking more risk with Nico than they even took with Hendon Hooker.
There's no question. The throw down the middle of the field, the deep crossing route, to Dante, but that was against Chattanooga. But last week, the one he missed was also a risky throw.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. But they're asking him to make a lot of risky throws. And I mean, this is kind of naturally what comes with that, isn't it, Dave? I mean, we got to be honest. And so I think long-term, he's going to be fine. Remember this. Remember, Nico Iamaleava right now he's had 3 starts and he's faced 2 3-3-5 defenses. That's not common. And he's not going to be facing 3-3-5 defenses regularly throughout his college career. And so, again, you're going to start seeing more chances for him to really start to light it up. He hasn't had many. He'll light it up this weekend. He'll get back in the Heisman race. I keep telling you guys this. The Oklahoma game, I was half right, by the way, on Saturday in my early prediction, Dave. Before the season, I said Tennessee would beat NC State, but they would struggle to do it. It would be like a Pittsburgh game. It would be ugly, and it'd be kind of under the radar. And then 2 weeks later, they would light it up against Oklahoma, and Nico would be a Heisman contender. Well, they didn't struggle to beat NC State, but Nico was a little bit under the radar because of the mistakes, so the national media is still not talking about him the way they should. So I am still right on the fact that Oklahoma will be the game where national media falls in love with Nico. And guys, I'm telling you this, they're going to fall in love with Nico.
I agree with that. Now, I will tell you this. Watching the broadcast, that there is no question that all of the reviews, and we talk about these little private conversations that the TV guys have with the coaches before the game. There's no question that Kirk Herbstreit and the guy who does the play-by-play, that they have been told nothing but great things about Nico. And that was obvious during the broadcast. That was obvious during the beginning of the broadcast when they made such a big deal about his name. That was obvious with the Peyton Manning intro. Listen, there is no negative feedback coming out of Tennessee. As a matter of fact, there's positive feedback. That's why they're willing to have him pumped up as much as they are. Caleb, if you had any reservations, you'd probably say, like, I don't know. Or, I guarantee you Peyton knows what's going on, and he wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have done that intro. And you saw the intro, the one I'm talking about, right?
I saw the intro, and it was funny because he tried to like both sides it because he brought in Grayson. They had him talk about Grayson McCall too, and I'm like, okay, you did this intro because they're using you to prop up Nico. Let's call it what it is.
you would not do that intro for Tyler Bray.
No, never. That is
Peyton would not put himself out there and hurt his potential PR. So just all signs are pointing to that he is going to be elite. And I don't think there's really any question about that. So I want to remind you that portions of the program are brought to you by our good friends at Ray Varner Ford. If you need a vehicle, it's Ray Varner Ford. The selection is absolutely unmatched.
And the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford in Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
All right, let's get to Bank on It, and that's brought to you by Commercial Bank. That's right, Commercial Bank. Bank on It, as we're going to talk some Tennessee football, and get right to that. Brought to you by our good friends at Commercial Bank, and Bank on It. Tennessee is a top 5 football team. Caleb, do you agree with that?
Yes, they are a top 5 football team. And when we do our recap a little later, you'll see in my rankings, they are very clear-cut a top 5 football team. It's not even a question. Okay. And honestly, I think it's ridiculous that I think it's ridiculous that they weren't in the top 5 in the AP poll.
Okay. That's what I want to get into. All right, let's do it right now. It is Bank on It, brought to you by our good friends at Commercial Bank. And who do you think, Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial Banks for personal and business. Commercial Bank, life made better. Go to cbtn.com right down below. Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank. Tennessee is one of the top 5 teams in the nation. I'm going to tell you, based off my research yesterday, who I have in the top 5. But Caleb, let me see if you agree with me. You can read about it on offthehooksports.com. Caleb, who is your top 5?
All right, so my top 5 is, and again, I go based on your resume to this point, but it's Texas, Miami, Georgia, USC, and Tennessee. I don't really think there's a debate of those 5.
Okay, I'm debating. Bank on It right now. I believe that Tennessee rated number 7 is low. I think the number 9 in the coaches poll is laughable. Here are my top 5 teams. I've got Southern California, should be 1, and this is purely based off what they've done. They beat LSU. They handled Utah State. You might ask me about number 4, Alabama. Nope, haven't played anybody yet. I'm going to give number 3, Ohio State. They haven't beaten anyone of significance, but I will give it to them as I think they're one of the best teams in the nation. Number 2, Texas, and number 1, Georgia. Those are my 5 teams. Texas,
wait. Let's say it again.
Okay. Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, and Southern California. Those are the top 5 schools. Now, you can jumble the order however you want, but bank on it. At the end of the year, those will be your top 5 teams at the end of the season. I'm not trying to lay them out 1 through 5. I'm just telling you that's where, based off what they've done and my eye, that's where the delineation lies. Then there's a step down to everyone else. I say bank on it. They'll be the top 5 teams at the end of the year. You have another crew. So tell me why Miami, tell me why other teams. And if it's just off resume, do you believe they'll be there at the end of the year?
Yes. So mine is just off resume right now. So I don't believe Miami will be there at the end of the year, but I can't in good conscience put Ohio State in there, particularly when they struggled in their first game. So, I mean, they actually had some issues in their first game. So taking that into account, Dave, I'm sorry. I can't not put Miami in my top 5 right now. I mean, I know it's Florida.
You're Wait, you know Ohio State? Oh, okay.
No, I can't not.
All right.
Yeah, I can't not put Miami in my top 5 with what they
I
did
guess.
to Florida on the road last week. And I mean, I'll get into this a little later when we do our takeaways, but they absolutely belong. Now, the travesty to me, if you want my honest opinion, Dave, is that Oregon never should have been ahead of Tennessee after last week. Alabama certainly shouldn't be ahead of Tennessee. Alabama shouldn't be ahead of Ole Miss either. Guys, we watched that game over the weekend. They were up 14-13 with 7 minutes to go before they kind of turned it on. I'm sorry, guys. Alabama has got some issues, and I really don't care what anybody tells me. There's no reason they should be behind them. And also, from resume's perspective, I get Ole Miss is blowing out teams, and I get Missouri's blowing out teams. But Tennessee did just blow out a Power 5 team that was in the top 25. Does that not count for anything? So they should absolutely be a top 5 team, and they should be very angry that they're not in the top 5. They should be ahead of Missouri, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Ohio State right now.
Yeah, I have people asking me, do you think they'll move into the top 10? Yeah. I mean, the part that bothers me is twofold. One, the coaches poll doesn't matter anymore, right? Two, I know behind the scenes that a lot of the AP voters either don't take it seriously or they do the old-fashioned, you've got to move up because that team dropped.
They treat it like a NASCAR race, like however you started and then you got to like catch up. And that's not how it should be.
Thank you. And I'm going to tell you exactly how you can fix this and make it more interesting. I know we all love preseason polls and we get excited about where your team is and the next week where your team is, but these have no effect on the college football playoff anymore. It is time just to do away with the preseason polls, because even though they don't have any effect on the college football playoff committee, at least they shouldn't, when I see a number 9 or a number 12 next to a team, there is some subconscious that goes into that. Is there not, Caleb? If you're on the committee, well, how could I have them in the top 12 teams if they're 14 according to the AP? Am I going to get beat up by that? So I don't want any more preseason polls. I want it to start 2 weeks after the season. I can tell you right now that me personally and everybody out there that loves and follows college football knows a lot more about college football than we did 14 days ago. Is that fair, Caleb?
That's fair. That's fair. But can I push back a little bit on that?
Yes, but I got to remind you that Bank On It's brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Personal and business Commercial Bank. Caleb, I won't take it personally if you disagree with me.
Part of college football and part of what made it such an entertaining sport was the media's the way the media covered the sport. And I talk about this historically all the time, dating back to Grant Lynn Rice and his writing of it in the 1920s. That really took the sport national. A huge part of the entertainment value of the sport is where teams are in the polls, preseason or not. And I think that adds to some of the excitement. It adds to the excitement of week 1 games, because right now college football is still very bad about not putting marquee games on week 1 when the NFL's given you that weekend. So taking that into account, I give them a pass for doing preseason rankings, because you got to do something to add some fun to it. It just sounds fun, right? Like, oh, number 20 is playing number 13. We got to watch. Like, it just sounds fun. It's good for the narrative.
Okay, well, what about how about having a formula where who you beat matters? Or how about having a group of respectable coaches that are retired do it? I would be fine with that. On our message board, I don't think some of you realize, and it was Reese Davis, by the way, I don't think some of you realize just how good Tennessee is, because I go back to the ratings on our earlier poll question. We would love for you to be a part of that. And our earlier poll question, Tennessee's AP ranking is just right at number 7, 75%, too low at 15%, too high at 8%. Caleb, based off the old system, would you have them at number 7? Or if you were to do a power ranking right now, where would you have them?
I mean, if I'm having a power ranking, actually, I have them in the same spot for a power ranking that I do for an overall ranking, because I think they're number 5 right now, straight up number 5. I still no, actually for power ranking, I might have them number 3 because I can't do Texas
in the nation.
In the nation. I mean, Texas and Georgia, I can't, like, the way Georgia overwhelmed Clemson and what Texas just did to Michigan, I'll give them 1 and 2. But right now, yeah, I might even have Tennessee above Miami or USC. Dave, maybe I'm crazy on this, but I think blowing out NC State is actually more impressive than blowing out Florida. I know people are like, but Florida's SEC, but
no, that's not crazy at all. That place is a fiasco. That's a much more impressive win than at Florida.
That's what I think too. So, I mean, putting that into consideration, like,
did you see where Billy Napier named an offensive lineman that literally quit in the middle of a play chasing down an interception, the captain, last week? So two games ago, this guy quit. Billy Napier named him a captain. I'm telling you, he's trying to get himself fired. He's over it. There's no quality win against Florida. That does not count as a quality win. I don't care if it's Tennessee or if it's Miami or it's anybody else.
Yeah,
he wants to get fired. He's doing Dooley-like stuff because Dooley was ready to get the hell out.
Really? You thought Dooley wanted to get fired? I didn't think Dooley wanted to get fired, but maybe I just thought he was in over his head too. But
I think by the end of it, he knew the buyout was the buyout. He's a lawyer, and he wanted to be a little bit more annoying with all the press conference stuff because he realized to himself, I'm a lifelong assistant coach. I'm not a head coach.
I can maybe see that with Billy Napier. I think Billy Napier doesn't realize what he stepped in. Now, I don't know if he could have run any program, but guys, I think you guys don't understand how bad a shape Florida's in right now. So, well, you understand it, Dave, but I don't think everybody on the message board understands. Just that is a disaster of a program. And so I could see that with you. I mean, and long story short, yeah, looking at it now, Florida's not as impressive of a win as NC State on a neutral field, and Tennessee blowing out NC State means more. So, and then on top of that, you can maybe say USC beating LSU, but honestly, I think the way Tennessee beat NC State, Dave, if I'm Vegas and Tennessee plays USC on a neutral field, I'm favoring Tennessee, aren't you?
Yes. As a matter of fact, if that's what a power ranking is, let's do that right now. Let's take a look at the top 5, 6, 7. Who would you favor Tennessee over in a neutral field? So the question that I posted on our YouTube page, in a power ranking, the Vols should be top 3, 4, or 5 or lower. So get on that right now. Caleb, let's look at the AP at each team, and you tell me if you think that Tennessee would be favored against this team on a neutral site. So start me out with number 1, Georgia. I think we can both agree that Georgia would be favored, correct?
Yes, Georgia would be favored on a neutral site.
Fair. All right, who's next?
Texas, they'd be favored on a neutral site.
You think Texas would?
Over Tennessee, yeah.
Okay, I agree with that.
Ohio State, number 3, they'd be favored over Tennessee on a neutral site. Even though I don't think they've proven anything, I still think they'd be favored.
I agree with that. Okay.
Here it gets tricky. I don't think Alabama would. Alabama's number 4. I think Vegas would favor Tennessee over Alabama.
I agree. I agree.
Mean, yeah, I don't even think it's close. Now, after Alabama is Ole Miss, I honestly think Vegas would favor Ole Miss, but they might consider that game a pick 'em. That game could be a push, quite honestly, with how Vegas would set it.
Yep. I think if this game were held at a neutral site, besides Birmingham, where they used to do it, I think that Tennessee would be favored.
Over Alabama, you mean?
Over Alabama.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ole Miss was right after. I think Ole Miss, Tennessee would probably be that. I think Vegas would set that as a push. Honestly,
I think
they
Tennessee
make it a pick 'em.
I think after the defense, Tennessee would be favored. And I think Tennessee's fan base would actually move that line considerably. So that may not be the best example of just saying the line. But I think Tennessee, let's just say this. I think Tennessee would beat Ole Miss at a neutral site. And then Missouri.
Tennessee would be favored. They'd be favored over Missouri.
I agree. So I want to go back to our poll, and that is in a power ranking, Vols should be top 3, 4, 5, or lower. Guys, let's forget about this whole AP. You have to move past a team, and that was the first thing I tweeted out over the weekend. This is why the coaches poll is a total joke. The fact that Tennessee was at 9, and somebody said, who do they jump? It doesn't matter. You should reset it through almost the entire month of September. Now, when you're November, you need to look back to previous months and say, this is my determining factor when it's close, right? Right, Caleb?
Right, exactly.
You have a big resume, but you've got basically a 2-game resume.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny whenever they say that. Like, I love when top 5 lists are done and like I say someone belongs on there and somebody will be like, well, who would you take off? I don't care who's taken off. This person just belongs on there. And so, like, yeah, who does Tennessee jump? One, I can name them easily. They jump Oregon because Oregon has looked horrible in 2 wins. They should jump Penn State. Penn State barely got by Bowling Green. I mean, I don't understand this. Who do they jump? I just named 2 teams that they should have jumped easily. And so, yeah, I think the right answer to that poll question is 4 or 5. 4 or 5 because you can understand why they wouldn't be favored over Ohio State, Georgia, or Texas right now.
But I don't believe there's a clear delineation above them. Would you agree with that? I don't think that Georgia is by far the better team like they were last year over most of the nation.
I agree with that. By the way, but also when we get to my recap of college football, we'll notice this. Because of NIL, you are seeing more parity in college football than you have ever seen. And
that's true.
It's looking more and more like the NFL. And lines are going to be narrowing more and more, guys.
Yep, no, that is very true. 2 minutes, and then the power rankings where we have Tennessee up next. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll be right back with you. Off the Hook Sports with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker.
5th year, the 2nd and 3rd generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Varner Ford in Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Varner Ford, built for the game.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
We're going to get to power rankings, and I specifically did not look at Caleb's story, and you can check it out on offthehooksports.com because I want to give my real reaction to where Tennessee falls and also where some other schools fall, as the SEC is pretty difficult to break apart this year and to get a feel for early in the season. Is that just me, or are you feeling some of that, Caleb? It's having trouble deciphering who's great and who's good. I don't know why.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's a little easier than it actually has been in years past up to this early because the SEC, and again, we'll talk about this a little later too, they've been really underachieving in marquee games 2 weeks into the year. And Tennessee is one of the few who's actually been carrying the torch for them.
Quality Tire Pros, the Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. All work is covered by a nationwide warranty. It's right down below, qualitytirepros.com. Tell Off the Hook Sports, or tell Bo that Off the Hook Sports and Dave said hello. So we're going to get to 4 downs now. And 4 downs is brought to you by our good friend Joe Neubert at Joe Neubert Collision Center. For over 50 years, Neubert Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. 4 downs is now.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show. 4 downs. A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Be sure and tell all of our various advertisers that Off the Hook Sports sent you. It means a lot. It's why we're here. I had someone tell me, this is pretty neat. Actually, he listens in Cyprus every day. Cyprus in the Mediterranean.
Nice.
And and he said, he said, I love it. You got some commercials. That's why we're here, buddy. So support our sponsors. That's why we're here. We do not farm out any of our inventory, commercial inventory, to others that we may not believe in, that we don't know. We either use their services or would and will if we need them. So 4 downs, we get to that right now. And let's start off with some power rankings. And Coop, what should we do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right. What down, Coop?
Coop here. First down.
All right. So first down is this, as we break down the power rankings.
For the SEC.
For the SEC. Who is straight up garbage in the SEC?
Yes, and yes, I said straight up garbage. Long, but 16 through 12 because
I got places to be. So just tell them
You suck.
I mean, last place in the SEC, and I totally missed this. I missed the vote on this. I didn't see this coming, but Kentucky's at number 16. What I saw with them against South Carolina, was that is if you want to create the worst passing game ever. Take Will Levis, bring him back to Kentucky, and put him behind this offensive line. That's the worst passing game you could ever have. There's air blocking Brock Vandagriff. I mean, there's air.
Yeah, it's bad. I had a joke over the weekend. I was going to text our friend Will West, who joins us on Thursday. He's a Giants fan. I was like, if the Giants offensive line and the Cowboys offensive line had to block each other, who would win? I'm waiting for that other team to match with Kentucky because their offensive line was so incredibly bad. It was just, and I don't know what it is about Shane Beamer, and I'm not going to belabor this, but give him credit. As bad as that program is, his players don't stop believing.
That is true. That's a very good point. His players don't stop believing. And by the way, people are pointing this out on the message board. We're taking a shot at Gerald Mincy right now because he's on that Kentucky offensive line, and he was doing a lot of chirping this offseason, and he just had was part of the worst performance ever by a pass blocking and pass protection in SEC history, maybe.
Who's up next?
All right.
No. The rest of the garbage.
Yeah. So number 15 is Florida. They moved out of number 16. We got some people.
You suck, you jackass.
We got some people on the message board saying that Vanderbilt might beat Florida this year. Guys, there's no might to that. I think Vanderbilt straight up would beat Florida right now.
Yeah.
Why don't you shut the hell up?
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. What else you got?
Now, you might disagree with me on these next three, but Mississippi State's at number 14. I have them garbage. They lost 30-16 to Arizona State. They were my super dog. They lost, but it was 30-3, and then they made it close late. And Auburn's number 13. Pastor Hugh lost to the Hippies, and Woke beat Pastor Hugh with Auburn losing to Cal over the weekend. So I got Auburn at number 13. And by the way, guys, and this is still in my garbage tier. South Carolina is still in the garbage tier. They're just up to number 12. But that wasn't about them. That was about how bad Kentucky is.
Yeah, absolutely garbage tier. They are. All right. Do we have any more on the garbage tier?
Nope. I got 5 garbage in the SEC right now.
All right. What down's next, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Not garbage, but not a college football playoff contender.
All right. I got 3 teams in this list. Number 11, not garbage. Congratulations, Vanderbilt. You guys aren't a garbage team.
I think that's nice.
Right? Isn't that special? So Vanderbilt's number 11 as a not garbage team. Number 10, Texas A&M, not garbage, but not a contender. And then the only other team on this list, they could have been higher, but Arkansas, number 9, not garbage, but not a contender. The reason they're not looking like a contender right now is because if they get into a close game, Sam Pittman is going to do something to screw it up.
Oh, man. I think Sam Pittman is a good game manager.
Oh, okay. Here's the sad part. So there's two types of coaches.
I also think he has small breasts.
Oh my gosh, I'm not going there, but there's two types of things for coaching, Dave, and I'm learning this now. Like there's the analytical side, but then there is the getting your players to play hard for you. Sam Pittman's really good at the latter, but he's so bad at the former. He's so bad at it.
All right, so just for the record, you think the worst team in the SEC is Kentucky? That's interesting to me. All right, who else is in this category? What's this category called again?
Not garbage, but not contenders, and that would be Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and Arkansas.
Okay, and so we're going next level. All right.
Yep.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right, third down, college football playoff contender. Now, I don't think Tennessee's going to be in this. I think they're going to be elite, so you got to stay tuned. But Caleb, who are college football playoff contenders but not elite?
All right, so we're going
8. Sam Pittman on there. Don't do that. Don't do that.
You guys are horrible. Oh man, Dave started it. Okay.
Well, hey, I'm kind of chesty on purpose, so I'm allowed to do it. It's like when I was fat, I could make fun of fat people. So it's the same thing.
Great grandmother Chesty. What the heck?
Oh, she's Chesty over there.
Okay, sorry. All right, so 8. There's 4 teams in the contender but not elite. I still have LSU in the contender but not elite. Losing to USC, a close one, isn't going to knock you out from being a contender. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Oklahoma, contender but not elite. Looked ugly against Houston, but they're 2-0. Missouri, contender but not elite. And guys, are you ready for this? Strap yourselves in. Alabama, contender but not elite.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, that's my order.
I think that's going to play itself out too. So, new poll question: worst in the SEC. Caleb, if you can read that off to me before we get to the elite, what does that say?
Kentucky, South Carolina, Vandy, Sam Pittman's chest. Why are we making fun of Sam Pittman?
I don't know, because I saw a funny meme, and it's funny. So repeat the poll question that is up now before we get to the elite teams, please.
Worst in the SEC, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Sam Pittman's chest.
All right.
And by the way, I have to give you the order real quick, but it's LSU number 8, Oklahoma number 7, Missouri number 6, Alabama number 5. Dave, do you think I should maybe put Oklahoma below LSU because struggling with Houston is worse than losing to USC, isn't it?
I probably would, but we'll find out in the coming weeks. I think this is going to flatten itself out, unlike Sam Pittman's chest.
Unless he sees Senator Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right, so 4th down. These are the elite teams in the SEC. Does Tennessee make the list? Because if not, Peyton Manning's going to say
That is total bullshit.
Which one is he going to say?
I think you can
Like, that is total bullshit.
Sorry about that. All right, we got a little
What does
Paris
Peyton Manning find hot?
By the way, have you bought Paris Hilton's new album? If so, you're an idiot. All right, Caleb, what do you got?
All right, so I'm going to get – I think the top 3 is not debatable, but I have a number 4 in my elite that I think people would debate. So let's just start with this, and you tell me if you disagree or not. In my elite category, I do have Ole Miss at number 4. Do you think I should move them down to contender? I have them at elite because they have looked really good through 2 weeks despite little competition.
Yeah, they're the biggest X factor to me. So I think we could be having a conversation in 3 weeks that they're one of the 3 elite teams along with Georgia and Tennessee, or we could be having the conversation that they implode and they're not even a college football playoff contender. So I think you're basically covering your eyes and throwing a dart at the board.
Throwing a Jackson dart.
All right.
So they're number 4. Number 3 is Tennessee. Tennessee's elite, and they're number 3. And I couldn't put them number 2 or 1 because I can't sit there and say blowing out NC State's the same level as blowing out a Clemson or Michigan on the road yet. But I still think that they still are number 3. And I think Tennessee's in the same class as Texas and Georgia. By the way, Texas is 1, Georgia's 2.
Okay. So the top 3 are
Tennessee at 3, Georgia at 2, Texas at 1. And you can tell me if I'm insane for putting Texas ahead of Georgia, but this is based on what we are seeing right now. Based on the play right now and what Texas just did to Michigan is that stands out to me.
Okay. Give us an update if you don't mind on the poll question.
Worst in the SEC, Kentucky 69%. Sam Pittman's chest 20%.
Oh, wow.
South Carolina 70%. Vandy 3%.
There's nothing stuffed about Sam Pittman's chest. And I will tell you that it may well just bust up onto the top eventually of that poll question. Can you one more time, if you could repeat that? By the way, a special guest will join us tomorrow. Guess, see if you can guess who it is.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
That's a tease in the biz. Caleb, so Sam Pittman's breasts are 2. I'm sorry, chest.
Sam Pittman's chest is 2. And the worst team in the SEC. He's at 18%. Kentucky's at 74%. South Carolina's at 6%. Vandy's at 3%. Guys, how could y'all have how could y'all vote South Carolina? I'm just curious who's voting South Carolina after seeing what they just did to Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That South Carolina-Kentucky game was a head scratcher. Maybe Kentucky just didn't show up or something, but I thought they were not only more talented, but better coached, and they looked the exact opposite.
Colton is the winner. Colton is the winner. Is Bobby Petrino going to take Sam Pittman on a motorcycle ride?
He's just that good looking where you're like, hop on the seat. You know what that's called, right? The seat right behind. It starts with a B, rhymes with itch.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
motorcycle terminology there. Yeah.
By the way, who's the smartest coach in the state of Arkansas? Sam Pittman or Butch Jones?
Let me ask you this too: is there a way that if Bobby Petrino gets that job, which it appears like this is how different things run and how Tennessee was run for 10 years, but this is how different things are run at the bottom half of the SEC schools than the top half. It wouldn't surprise me if an athletic director, associate athletic director at the University of Arkansas said, you know, you'll get that Bobby Petrino guy, and if the Pittman doesn't work out, then we can move Boobs. I mean, Sam over to offensive line coach, and Petrino can be the head coach. Would you?
That's very possible.
That's not at a place like Arkansas. That's crazy. At a place like Tennessee, that would be insane, right?
Yeah, that's very insane. I'm resetting the poll question. I'm taking over and I'm resetting the poll question.
Okay.
Since they're both at Arkansas, what would Arkansans rather look at?
Okay,
You
that's
ready?
fair. We can
Sam
we can
Pittman's-
hold on. We can do that. So, Sam Pittman's breast or Bobby Petrino's girlfriend's breast. All right, so we want to remind you that our good friends at Sports Treasures have over 5 million sports treasures, and they're also awesome enough to supply us with our monthly grand prize that we'll figure out today, but it's going to be awesome. Sports Treasures in North Knoxville, so much more. Follow them on Facebook. You see the QR code right there if you're on one of our video platforms. And thanks to them, we're able to bring you Hooker's Corner, in which you'll get increased recruiting coverage, more interaction with me and Caleb Calhoun. You can reach out to us at any time. Somebody did so, as a matter of fact, to ask about the record, the stat of the day, which led to, ask me a question, which led to the stat of the day would be a better way for me to put it. And that was the last time that Tennessee had not given up an offensive touchdown in 3 consecutive games. And you have to go back to 1985. The University of Tennessee will soon release that. And you can thank me and TJ for actually creating that into a thing that they will release. Also want to remind you that if you're a member of Hooker's Corner, it's just $9.98 to be a member to get those Sports Treasures prizes and the weekly prizes, in which we're going to give away some of our NCAA lawsuit T-shirts by the University of Tennessee as they toppled that stupid governing body. Also, though, if you want to be a free member, we appreciate that. And we love for you to be a free member. And then you will be able to take part in Rick Terry's Great 8 Garmin Challenge just by subscribing to this channel and being a member. Here's what we're going to do. When we hit 8,000 subscribers, we're giving away a Garmin watch worth over $1,000. That's pretty awesome. This day in Tennessee sports history. Have you got that queued up and ready, Caleb Calhoun?
I do. I got it queued up, but before we get there, you got to let me set this poll question up because I think I got the best one of the day.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me tell you about Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. The fire opals are awesome. A Tennessee tradition, rickterryjewelry.com. What do you got, Caleb?
All right, so do you want me to give you this day or start the poll question first?
Poll question. Let's get that poll question.
All right, so we're ending this one. What is a better sight for Arkansans? Sam Pittman's chest or Butch Jones's haircut?
Yeah, ouch. That's tough. That's tough. Because Butch can grow his hair. It appears as if Sam is just blessed with maybe higher levels of estrogen than others. And that's fine. Not judging him, but I don't know. I would have to go with the Grand Tetons, though. TriStar Hats is a good partner of ours. For the latest in TriStar Hats, go to the original hats, apparel, and more. TriStarHatsCo.com. TriStarHatsCo.com. All right, Caleb. The what is that? This day in Tennessee sports history is what?
All right, so on this day, it is actually the 9-year anniversary of another brilliant coach that Tennessee wants to face, a man named Ray Goff. Or
as we like to call Drunken Ray Goff.
Drunken Ray Goff. By
the way, we had 2, and you can go back and watch them. 2 players from our Celebrate 98 series, celebrating 25 years since Tennessee won a national championship. We had 2 players tell us that Ray Goff jumped had a recruiting visit with them, and he might have been hitting it a little bit. If you want to buy the book, the QR code's right there. We've got autographed copies and regular softback if you just want to read about some of the untold stories about Tennessee's 1998 national championship. Continue, Caleb.
Yeah, so in 1995, Jeff Hall kicked the game-winning field goal on this day in 1995 to beat Georgia 30-27. It was Peyton Manning's second year, his second start of his second year. Kind of a very Nico-esque type of situation. Tennessee was playing Georgia, their first real test, and Peyton Manning's first year as the full-time starter. And they go and beat them off a Jeff Hall game-winning field goal 30-27. And it was Jeff Hall. He was a true freshman that year. It was just his second game. and kind of began the legend of Jeff Hall being the most insanely clutch kicker in Tennessee history. And quite honestly, I don't know if Jeff Hall, I mean, if you need a field goal to win a game, you would have called Jeff Hall before anybody else.
Tennessee's been blessed by a lot of great kickers and punters. Will Hoyt's, the Colquitts. I can't think of many other schools that have been that good for that long. I think of Georgia as a great place kicking school for some reason.
They are. They have been. But they're players like, and I don't know what it is, like Rodrigo Blankenship and people like that. They're great in college, and I don't get how kickers can be so much worse in the NFL because, like, the kicking is the same, right? Like, that's not something that there should be a gap.
Are you talking about kickoffs? Okay. Yeah, field goals and kicking's the same. By the way, did you watch over the weekend that bizarro? I'm sure you've seen it preseason. I don't watch a lot of preseason. The kickoff thingy in the NFL.
Yeah. No, the season opened this past weekend, but he might. But yeah,
please don't let I watch. No, that's what I'm saying is I saw it for the first time because I don't watch a lot of preseason.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And please don't do that in college football. That is just
so ridiculous. It's I'm not a fan. But yeah, that Georgia game was a legacy game for Tennessee in '95. They beat Georgia 30-27. They end up going 11-1. Really kind of set the tone for the year. That wasn't a great Georgia team, but you know this, Dave. When you play decent teams early in the year, even if you're significantly better, you can play very sloppy ball in Tennessee.
Very true. Coming up, a couple more notes on our Week 2 recap. Things you need to know. 2 minutes off the hook sports. Please hit that like and subscribe button. The last look coming up next.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Varner Ford, built for the game.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, last look coming up as what stood out about the weekend and how it might affect the Vols. Caleb, we'll dig into that right now. If if you want to reset the poll question that might fit into last look, brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. So right now we have the poll question about what is a better site for Arkansas, Sam Pittman's chest or Butch Jones's haircut. It's pretty close to 50-50. So if you can throw us out a poll question on the YouTube page concerning your recap, what happened over the weekend, what was the most surprising thing, the last look, brought to you by our good friends Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. They're local and they care about you and your vision.
To visit cctis.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at cctis.com. Simply the best.
All right, Caleb, let's get to your week 2 already recap. What do you got, sir? And set up that poll question again when you have a second.
All right, I'm doing that right now. So what stood out from week 2 of college football to you guys? Was it the Notre Dame upset loss? Was it Colorado collapsing? Or was it elite programs like Oregon struggle? So that's my... And I could have thrown Oregon or Alabama or, just any of those teams that you want to we'll get to that.
I have to be honest, okay, because what did I tell you last week? I said, I'm now on the Marcus Freeman bandwagon, okay, because of what they did to Texas A&M. Now, I didn't think Freeman was a good hire at the time because he's a player's coach, and he had some just devastatingly bad losses before that were very similar in times that they didn't play well when they came back at home. He's the only coach I know that doesn't play well as well at home as he does elsewhere. So I can't say that one because I told you last week that I thought Marcus Freeman, their coach, was better than I originally thought. So I guess I have to, in retrospect, I guess I have to pick that one. It wouldn't have been surprising at all to me before they beat Texas A&M. Colorado collapsing was not a surprise to me. Elite programs like Oregon struggling, that was surprising. But let's face it, Notre Dame losing, I don't know who watched the end of that game, but they not only got the most crazy favorable spot in the history of man. Did you watch the end of that game?
Oh, yeah. No, I saw the end of that game.
Okay.
It was
and they forgot to wind the clock. So Notre Dame had a timeout that Marcus Freeman is still carrying around with him somewhere in South Bend because he never ended up using it. But he had an extra timeout and needed it. So they tried their best to give that to him, and he still couldn't win it. So I will have to say that was my most surprising thing that happened over the weekend. That's the first time NIU's ever beaten a top 10 ranked opponent.
Yeah, Notre Dame is number one on my takeaways. That's my first one. And basically what I said, Dave, is Notre Dame pulls a Notre Dame. This has been the story of Notre Dame since the 90s, right? The second you think they're back to what they once were, they drop a game that they shouldn't drop. They usually do it during the weekend midterms. But for those who don't know, Notre Dame keeps their players on the same academic standards, regardless of whether or not they're athletes. Every other school makes exceptions, but Notre Dame won't, which is why Urban Meyer, as you know, Dave, did not take the Notre Dame job in 2005. Then he basically say, guys, I need you to loosen these for the players, and they wouldn't do it. I think he wanted Notre Dame over Florida.
Could be. I'm not ruling that out. The one thing I'm ruling out is that Notre Dame should be in the college football playoff. You can't lose a game like that. However, their schedule's so easy that it's set up to manufacture ways to get them in. All right, so what's next on your wrap-up?
Well, this is the underrated thing. And Dave, I'm having to concede something, and I hate having to concede something. But this is something that the expanded college football playoff has added value to. Group of 5 games are so much more entertaining now because they carry weight for that last college football playoff spot. Like Northern Illinois now has the inside track to be the group of 5 team to go to the playoff because they beat Notre Dame. I was watching Boise State, Oregon Saturday night. Boise State was really trying to win that game because they want to be the top group of 5 team in. Memphis is the one top 25 group of 5 team. They play Florida State this week. That game's huge for them now. That used to be like a no pressure game. You play a Power 5 team and lose. But they have pressure on them now, right? Because Northern Illinois just beat Notre Dame. So I'm like, This has made Group of 5 football a lot more fun to watch, and I never thought it would be.
No, I didn't either. I'm still not going to be all over it on a Saturday afternoon. But anyway.
Not between Group of 5 teams, but I'm talking about when a Group of 5 plays a Power 5 team. You're seeing the Group of 5 team put a lot more pressure on themselves to try to win these games than they used to. If they're
Little action. There we go.
Yep. All right, so number 3 is I led with Oregon, but Oregon, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Penn State, they're all concerning. They all should be worrying. They all should be raising the red flag right now and saying, we're in trouble.
Oregon, Alabama, Ohio State, and
Oklahoma and Penn State.
Okay. Why?
So Oregon, they barely beat Idaho, and then they struggled to put away Boise State. That's 2 weeks in a row. Penn State proves that it's something. It's maybe the reason you're not a big fan of James Franklin, but they show they can't handle success. How do you go blow out West Virginia and then you struggle to put away Bowling Green? That's a problem. Oklahoma looks like what we all thought they were as a Brent Venables coach team. Looks like a defensive coordinator struggling to put away a bad Houston team that lost to UNLV. And guys, Alabama, Jalen Milroe is not a fit for that offense. And you guys can debate me on that all day. It will show itself.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody's really debating you right now. I've felt that way all along. If you had to list those teams, who should be the most concerned about what has happened at this point in the season? And if you want to throw in a little bit of eye test, I know you're more analytical. I'm probably a little bit more eye test, but of those, of that group that expects to be in the college football playoff, and every team you just mentioned, their fan base expects to be in the college football playoff, right?
Right. Correct.
Okay. So of that group, which should be the most concerned that they're not going to make it?
Oregon. And I had them winning the Big Ten, but they've looked horrible. I mean, they've looked terrible. Dylan Gabriel is not a Heisman contender to me anymore.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to say that this offense is slightly different than what Dylan Gabriel had run his whole life, and then he's going to get better. So I'm not as worried about Oregon as I am Penn State. And you barely beat Bowling Green. I just don't see a lot of spark, a lot of flash out of that team. They just don't do a lot for me. So I would say that out of that group, and I don't believe in James Franklin. I think he's a player's coach. I think they're going to have up and downs. I don't think Penn State makes a playoff. Who are the other schools again, if you don't mind? Oklahoma. You and I both think that it's a matter of time before the bottom falls out of Oklahoma. The schedule is brutal.
Yes, and then Alabama, the other one. But yeah, Oklahoma's in trouble. So moving on, number 4, it's a part of my poll question, but Colorado hype is over. I will say that I'm going to say this on behalf of Colorado real quick. The problem is the hype was ever there in the first place. If you just looked at this from a projection of Deion Sanders building a program, they're still on track. I mean, 1-11 to 4-8. I thought 6 or 7 wins should have been the goal this year. Losing to Nebraska doesn't change that. And so, I mean, it's over because people put way too much hype behind it to begin with. So, but that doesn't mean that you should totally quit. The only thing I would say is Shedeur is melting down now and throwing his teammates under the bus. He basically said that they asked him why he struggled, and he said the other quarterback didn't get touched in the game on Saturday, which is whenever a quarterback starts blaming his offensive line, they're losing the locker room.
Yes, and I'll add to that. I think that based off some people I've talked to just this weekend, the locker room was already lost. There's a lot of things going on out there, and the chemistry is about as bad as it could be. Caleb, what else in your wrap up?
Well, on the other side of Colorado, Nebraska, I told you guys I believed in Matt Rule, and they're not a title contender this year, but I think Matt Rule will have Nebraska back to where they were back in the heyday in about a year. He's doing a heck of a job with his analytics.
Yeah, but how much do you weigh? I mean, but how much do you weigh the Colorado win?
Well, Colorado beat the brakes off them last year, so they really have improved significantly. I think Nebraska, look, they're not going to be a powerhouse this year, but I think they're going to flirt with the top 25 this year. And
they have similar challenges to Tennessee, and there's not a lot of in-state talent. However, I can see ways Tennessee overcomes that because Atlanta's nearby and because of Neyland Stadium, the facilities and the fan support. Nebraska has some of that, but I just don't see them. I think they're always going to be a has-been.
And you might be right about that. I just think in an era of NIL and now analytics, I actually think there's ways to. I think it's easier for programs in the middle of nowhere to be elite than even it was back then. I think if you find ways to be creative, which by the way, how was Nebraska creative back then? They had a conditioning program that no one else had. Steroids. But yeah, I think there's ways. Speaking of Tennessee, that's my number 6. Texas and Tennessee joined the ranks of elite. I think there were only 5 clear-cut elite teams in college. Not elite, but 5 clear-cut teams that have proven they should be considered title contenders to this point. That's Texas, Miami, Georgia, USC, Tennessee. I just wanted to add Boston College, Syracuse, Iowa State, Penn State, Northern Illinois is my top 10. My Heisman race is Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Miller Moss, Cam Scadebo, and Kyle McCord. Michigan is bad, and the SEC is losing too many marquee games.
There you go. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Other attorneys say they'll go to trial. They won't. It's Banks & Jones, banksandjones.com. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Hit the like and subscribe button. Turn notifications on, too. Ring that bell because Cooper Mays coming up maybe just in a matter of minutes. For Caleb, I'm